Brian, looking at his wife, did not understand why she began to look so bad. It seems like she is sitting at home with the child, doing nothing special, and she neglected herself in such a way that it was already unpleasant to look at her. He envied his best friend Austin, whose wife looked fresh and beautiful. She was also at home with the child, but at the same time, she tried to take care of herself. One day, Brian couldn't stand it and expressed his dissatisfaction to Amanda. "Why don't you take care of your appearance? You used to be beautiful." Amanda agreed with him, but nothing changed. She didn't have time to do her styling, and she was busy with household chores, and Brian, despite her requests, refused to help her. "Actually, I came home from work and was tired. It is your responsibility to look after the house and the children," he said, sitting down in front of the TV. Over the weekend, Brian and Austin decided to have a family picnic. And when the women were laying out the food, the friends moved aside to talk. Brian admired the way Austin's wife looked. He complained that Amanda had completely stopped caring about her appearance. Austin smiled and replied, "In order for a beautiful rose to bloom, it needs to be carefully cared for, watering on time. You must make sure that not a single leaf of it withers from the heat, and watch the soil so that it is favorable for the growth of the flower. It takes time and effort, but in the end, you will get the most beautiful flower that will delight you." Brian didn't really understand, but for some reason, he decided to give flowers to Amanda, which he did the very next day. When he handed his wife a bouquet, she literally blossomed in front of him. And then Brian decided to please her with small gifts every day, so that Amanda would be happy and could already pull herself together. However, her shabby appearance did not change, and he was ready to despair. He called Austin and asked what he was doing wrong. "You graduated from school with excellent grades, but would you have been able to get it if your parents hadn't helped you? If they hadn't taught you to read and write, but just left everything to you? You would cry helplessly and justify to them why you got another bad grade. And they just kept repeating in response, 'It's only your responsibility to learn, and ours is to work and support you.'" That's when Brian realized why his wife didn't have time to take care of herself, and Austin's wife always looked great. Despite being tired after a hard day, Austin helped her with the children and housework, while Brian blamed Amanda for everything and did not take any responsibility for himself. Then he finally began to clean up the dishes after himself and even wash them after dinner. On the weekends, he did the cleaning, and on weekdays, he tried to spend more time with the children. Amanda was happy that she could devote more time to herself. Brian saw that his rose began to bloom, and soon she became the most beautiful flower among thousands of others. You need to invest in a woman so that she pleases you with freshness and beauty. And it's not just about money, but also about attention, care, and endless support. Sally found out that a millionaire is coming to their town to open a charity fund for children with disabilities. She thought it would be a great chance to finally break out of a provincial city to plunge into the luxurious life of a metropolis. Sally worked as a janitress right in the hotel where the millionaire was supposed to stay, and when she saw him, she was disappointed. He arrived not alone, but obviously with his wife. "That is okay. She is already old, and I am young and beautiful, and I can fight him off," Sally thought slyly, looking at the elite. That woman looked very tired and shabby, so Sally did not doubt her own abilities. However, Sally later found out that this woman was the millionaire's sister, not his wife, which made her task easier. The next day, she put on a beautiful dress and went to the very end of the opening ceremony of the charity fund. There she managed to meet Mr. Fletcher. She found out that the man was 50 years old and that he had come from New York. Sally pretended to be interested in listening to a rich old man, but in reality, she was bored to death. And she was also infuriated by the fact that he moved very hard and constantly complained of heart pain. Sally pretended to be worried and even tried to court him a little to get his attention. And she succeeded in her plans because Mr. Fletcher and his sister decided to stay in the city. "It's only because of you, Sally. I really liked you," he said, feeling young again next to Sally. But the girl was worried about the fact that he did not give her any gift. She was expecting to get jewelry or go to a restaurant with him. But Mr. Fletcher invited her to a cafe, which Sally was very unhappy about. Old people have their own quirks, she thought, getting prepared for a date. But there was an unpleasant surprise waiting for her in this ordinary cafe. Mr. Fletcher was sitting next to his disgruntled sister, and Sally was mispleased with her. The fact is that she constantly interfered with them. Sometimes she would take her brother somewhere or just distract them from the conversation. Even now, she couldn't leave Sally and Mr. Fletcher alone. At the table, Mr. Fletcher told his sister that he had fallen in love like a boy at first sight, and Sally smiled and replied that she also loved him madly. "This is probably my destiny," the girl said dreamily, already planning a trip to Europe in her head. Mr. Fletcher really wanted Sally and his sister to become friends, and he tactfully retreated to the bathroom so they could talk to each other. "What do you want from my brother?" the woman immediately asked. "I love him and I want a family. He is 50 years old and you are not more than 25. All ages are submissive to love," Sally replied. The woman noted that her brother has heart problems and needs care, and Sally, laughing, said this is not a problem with so much money. She is not going to spoil her appearance and youth for the sake of some kind of care when she can hire people for this. "What kind of money are you talking about?" "He's a millionaire." "Not him, but I am a millionaire." The woman smiled. "You would rather study and work hard to succeed than hunt for the rich." Sally blushed with shame. She apologized to Mr. Fletcher and his sister and left, thinking she would always remember this life lesson. Only work and diligence will help a person to achieve success and carefree life, and the hunt for the wealth of others will bring only misfortune. Amanda was traveling on a business trip to another city by train. However, she was not thinking about her job, but her relationship with her boyfriend. It seemed to Amanda that there was something wrong with their relationship, as in their relationship became insipid and trivial, and her friend stated that she deserves the best man. At this moment, an elderly couple, a nice old woman and a sober old man, entered the coupe. They greeted with Amanda and sat in front of her. Amanda decided that these elderly people met quite recently, as they did not behave like old people, but like a school couple in love. The man constantly asked the woman if she was comfortable, if she wanted something to drink or eat, and he was not letting go of the woman's hands. At the next station, a man got off the train. The stopover time was ending, but the old man was still not there. The woman got excited. At that moment, a man was running towards the train with the maximum speed for himself. In his hands, he clasped a bouquet of flowers. The old man literally jumped into the closing doors. He gave her flowers. The old woman scolded him, but it was clear that she was very pleased with paying heed. The man said he wanted to go to the dining car and buy some water. When he left, Amanda could not help asking the woman about how long they had been together. The old woman replied that more than 40 years. Amanda didn't believe it. She said that she would like to find the same man who, after 40 years, will be just as attentive. "Isn't your boyfriend like that?" surprised the old woman. Amanda just shook her head sadly. "While here only two of us, I will tell you a little secret, and I hope you will make use of it," smiled an old woman. There were two of them, he and she. He treated her as a princess, built a house so that she had a place to live. And everyone said, how not to love him, because he is an ideal. It's easy to be happy with this type of man. And they listened to everyone and smiled and did not tell anyone that she made him an ideal. He could not be different because he was next to her. This was their little secret. She was waiting for him, warming their house so that he would be warm and comfortable there. And everyone said how not to treat her like a queen because she was born for the family. No wonder he's so happy. And they only laughed and did not tell anyone that she was born for a family only with him, and only he could feel good in her house. It was their little secret. He walked, stumbled, fell, got frustrated and tired. And everyone said, why does she need him? So beaten and exhausted. Because there are so many strong and confident people around. But no one knew that there was no one stronger than him in the world, because they were together and therefore stronger than everyone. This was her secret, and at times she bandaged his wounds. She did not sleep at night. She was sad and cried. And everyone said, what did he find in her? Because she has wrinkles and bruises under her eyes. After all, is it worth for him? He should choose young and beautiful one. But no one knew that she was the most beautiful in the world. Can anyone compare in beauty with the one they love? But that was his secret. They still lived, loved, and were happy. And everyone was perplexed. How can they not get bored with each other for such a period? Don't they want something new? And they didn't say anything. Simply, there were only two of them, and all others were many, but everyone was one at a time. Otherwise, they wouldn't have asked about anything. It was not their secret, it was something that cannot be explained, and it is not necessary to explain it. Amanda opened her mouth and wanted to ask that the secret is to give herself what she wants. But at that moment, an old man entered the coop, and the old woman smiled slyly and put her finger to her lips. But Amanda understood. Relationships are always two people. You can't want love and not give it in return. Love your chosen ones, give them your warmth and care, and they will reciprocate. This is the secret of strong marriages. Barbara brought home David, with whom she planned to spend the evening. However, her dog Henry was very unhappy with the unloved guest. No matter how many times David came to her house, the dog always either growled at him or barked. It was very annoying for David, as he had been afraid of angry dogs since childhood. Therefore, David tried not to visit Barbara often, which upset the woman. She shared her problem with her family and friends, and everyone kept telling her that she had to get rid of the animal. David loves you. He'll probably ask you to get married soon. You will live with him and you will have children. And what can a dog give you? He's my friend, Barbara replied. You don't have to create a family with a dog. And besides, you can have another one who will be happy with David, said the friend. These words upset Barbara very much. She didn't want to get rid of Henry because he's not just a dog, but really a truly loyal friend. She picked him up from the street a few years ago as a puppy. Those days, Barbara had some dark times in her life, which drove her into depression. But taking care of Henry, walking with him and playing games revived her, and her bad streak ended with his appearance. And how could she betray him after that? However, a few days later, David unpleasantly surprised his beloved. Choose, Barbara. It's either me or your dog. He's bothering me. He'll never get along. You'd better go, she said softly. This ultimatum brought her to tears. She couldn't sleep for a long time thinking about this situation. But when the woman fell fast asleep, the fire had started. She couldn't wake up. Her apartment was filled with smoke. Henry tried to wake up the mistress, but nothing worked. So the dog started dragging her outside. Barbara was unconscious because she inhaled carbon dioxide. The woman was immediately taken to the hospital. Meanwhile, David was woken up by a call from his sister, Barbara. She told him what had happened, and the man immediately went to the hospital to his beloved. Barbara was already conscious, and the first thing she asked was where Henry was now. Mom took him, said the sister. He is a real hero. It was he who pulled you out of the burning apartment, but I'm afraid that he himself suffered during the fire. Hearing this, David promised to pay for all the dog's treatment because it saved his beloved woman. Every day, David took Henry to the veterinary clinic, where the dog was given injections. First, Henry growled at David, and then he began to get used to the man, as did David to him. He even began to walk with Henry in the evenings so that Barbara would gain strength after the incident. She was happy that her man and her beloved pet could get along. It is not necessary to put an ultimatum and force your loved one to make a difficult choice. It'll bring nothing but extra tears and worries. It is better to discuss everything and find a compromise. One woman named Marie has never had a relationship. For as long as she could remember, she always wanted a loving family, children. But communication with men never went beyond friendship. If Marie liked a man, then most likely he was indifferent to her. Or vice versa. The woman was very upset, looking at her friends walking with their kids and husbands. Her mother comforted her and told her that everything had its time, but she did not listen, trying to please someone. She adjusted to the interests of the society in which she was, and all for the sake of male attention, but in vain. And then one day, sitting in line at the clinic, a woman saw an old lady, apparently an employee of the hospital, hanging some recommendations on a magnetic board. The old woman did not reach the very top of the board. It was hard for her, even standing on her toes. Then Marie came to her and volunteered to help. The old lady smiled and thanked the woman. "Are you standing in line? It's for a long time, I know that already." She turned to her. Marie sat down next to the stranger with a sigh, and the old woman began to play with magnets like a child. "Look, this magnet, the red one, is not attracted by the green one. They are different. No matter how I twist them, it won't work." "Do you want to try it yourself?" The old lady looked at the woman, but she shook her head with poorly concealed irritation. "I have a lot of problems right now, miss. I'm not in the mood for this right now at all. I'm alone, without a loved one, without support." Her lips trembled. So why is she telling a stranger about it? "And in vain, you don't listen to me," the elderly interlocutor continued. "People, they are like magnets. If they are different, then they will never be together, whatever one may say. And even when they are the same, but closed from each other." The old woman took a book from the table, put it on its edge, and put one magnet on one side of it and the other on the other, so that they were not attracted and did not react at all with each other. They will also not see anything but their own experiences. People close themselves from each other, play the roles of those who they are not, do not notice real feelings, emotions. The woman sighed. Marie looked at the stranger with teary eyes, and she shook her head knowingly and smiled sadly. "You know what you need. Be yourself and only." The old woman left, leaving the woman in tears and in thoughts. For the first time in a long time, she finally wasn't hiding but was crying because she really needed it. She didn't act or pretend. She cried not from grief, but from relief, because she realized that there was no sense in looking for love if there was no right person nearby. Everything comes at its time. It's amazing how easy it becomes to live if you let everything take its course and not hide under someone else's mask. Sarah worked as an accountant for a large company. In her line of work, she sometimes had to deal with Mr. Fox, the assistant to the CEO, an older, stern, and finicky man. Mr. Fox liked to delve into the intricacies of all the processes involved in running a company, and often asked Sarah questions that seemed silly to her. She did not like meeting Mr. Fox, and although they were both almost the same age, she often characterized him to her friends as a tedious, boring old man who bothered her work. One day, when Mr. Fox once again checked with Sarah about some little thing and left the office, Kate, who worked as a junior accountant, winked at the woman and said, "There's something about your suitor coming to us a lot. Have you reciprocated?" Kate was Mr. Fox's niece, so Sarah was careful not to speak harshly of him in Kate's presence. But she had never concealed a strained relationship with the assistant general manager, so she was extremely surprised at this conclusion. The woman began to deny everything, but Kate confidently stood her ground, convincing her colleague that Mr. Fox was crazy about her. Intrigued, Sarah, against her will, began to look more closely at the man. She greeted Mr. Fox more affably now, answered questions more readily, and wondered if what Kate had told her was true. Relations between them became noticeably warmer. Soon they were discussing not only work matters, but in their spare time they were also talking about other topics, discussing the weather, new movies, books they had read, and world events. Sarah realized with surprise that Mr. Fox was not at all taciturn and boring. He had a broad outlook, he spoke intelligently, he joked amusingly. One day, during lunch, they went down to the park for a nature snack and talked so much that they barely made it back to their offices. Another time, a man invited her to a cafe after work. The evening was wonderful. When it became clear that Sarah loved golf, Mr. Fox, who turned out to be Henry, happily told her that he had long loved the game and immediately offered to take her to his favorite country club for the weekend. They both had a great time, enjoyed playing golf, had lunch at the clubhouse restaurant, and felt like they didn't want to break up. So much they bonded. After a delightful weekend, Sarah and Henry began dating openly, getting to know each other better and better. It took less than a year before the couple decided to live together. One evening, they were both sitting on the balcony, sipping red wine and leisurely discussing their plans for the future. Suddenly, Mr. Henry leaned towards his girlfriend and, kissing her shoulder, said, "My dear, how glad am I that Kate has confessed that you like me. I wouldn't have dared even think of it myself. I always thought you were a wonderful professional, but I had no idea what a wonderful woman you are." Sarah became numb with surprise and almost dropped her glass. It turns out Mr. Fox wasn't in love at all at first. Kate teased them both and made them pay attention to each other. Sometimes we don't realize that there is just the right person, and in the hustle and bustle of everyday life, we risk missing our chance for happiness. After a car incident, misfortune happened to the Miller family. Leo was seriously injured and could no longer walk, but his wife escaped with several abrasions. After this incident, Mia decided that she would not leave her husband. Despite the fact that he was confined to a wheelchair, she continued to love him. But her parents were against her daughter ruining her life. They believed that at the age of 25, she should not put an end to her life by caring for a disabled person. "My daughter, you should leave him. Doctors do not predict anything good for him. Better find a healthy man." When a person is surrounded by darkness, he needs the sun more than ever. And if you block the sun with clouds, then a person will get lost in the dark and will never get out of there again. "My love is the sun for Leo," Mia replied. But her words about love had no meaning for her parents. Because of this, their relationship deteriorated significantly. Therefore, Mia stopped communicating with them often, so as to not get upset once again. She needed strength for Leo. He was depressed because he could no longer walk. Leo felt useless. At first, he himself wanted Mia not to waste time on him, but to find someone better. But the wife always supported her husband and believed that sooner or later he would try walking again. "Our love will overcome everything, love," she kept repeating. She gradually influenced Leo with her faith. He was grateful to his wife for this and did not want to let her go anywhere, because he could not imagine himself without Mia. A few weeks after the accident, Leo was examined by his best friend Peter, who worked as a doctor. The day after the examination, he asked Mia to come to the hospital to talk in private. "The prognosis is disappointing. I don't think he'll be able to walk," Peter said. "Is there really no chance?" "I'm afraid that there's no chance." Mia burst into tears and Peter hugged her. He started talking about how she shouldn't sacrifice herself for Leo. And then he confessed to her his feelings, which he had kept secret for years. "Be with me, Mia, and I will make you very happy." Having heard this, she pushed Peter away from her and told him to never come into their lives again. She did not expect that the betrayal would be from Leo's best friend. However, despite all this, Mia did not remain without support. Together with her, Leo was looked after by his mother Penelope. She and Mia didn't get along very well in the past. However, the common misfortune brought the women closer, and Penelope was grateful to Mia for not abandoning her son, but remaining a faithful and loving wife. Once at a family dinner, Penelope was so excited and said, "I dreamed of a daughter, but my husband and I did not manage to have a second child. Who would have thought that after many years my dream would come true? Mia, you have become like a daughter to me." And a few months later, thanks to the love and care of his mother and wife, Leo was able to get back on his feet. And although it was a short moment for the family, for them it was a huge step into a bright future. Love will overcome all difficulties because it not only inspires a person to act, but also has great power. Love is the most meaningful and beautiful feeling of all. But sometimes it happens that after some time in the marriage between you and your spouse, there is a misunderstanding. We'll give you some tips to help strengthen your marriage and mend your relationship with your loved ones. Tip number 1. Positive thinking is not a thing you can practice 24 hours a day, but sometimes it's worth turning a blind eye to minor misdeeds for the sake of the greater things your chosen ones give you. Tip number 2. Don't neglect compliments. Often, after a few years of marriage, it seems unnecessary to compliment your loved ones. But as Mother Teresa said, good words are easy to say, but their echoes live long in the hearts of people. Tip number 3. Keep talking. Talk to each other about how your day was. Take an interest in your spouse's life. People change during a long-term relationship, but constant communication will help you move in the same direction. But still, following the 4th tip, don't argue over differences in taste. You must have something in common to understand each other, and something different to love each other. Tip number 5. It's strange what ways we don't choose to hide our true feelings, which you shouldn't do at all. Don't be afraid to be more open. Tip number 6. Respect your spouse's parents. Negative remarks about your spouse's parents are unacceptable and can ruin even the most ideal relationship. Tip number 7. Make concessions. After all, the ability to compromise is a commendable virtue, not a despicable weakness. Tip number 8. If you have a dispute, don't shout and don't make a scandal. Try to calmly describe your vision of the situation. Ask to listen and, importantly, to hear you. Tip number 9. Go on vacation together. Find time at least once a week to go out with your spouse to nature, take a walk in the park, or just watch your favorite movie together. How else can you spend time together if you're tired of just going out? Let's find out. Method number 1. Massage. Going to the spa together will not only help you enjoy each other's company, but also get a burst of energy, as well as a pleasant relaxation. Method number 2. Try staging your very first date. After all, the first impression is always the most vivid and unforgettable. Method number 3. Go to a clothing store and then go shopping for each other. It'll be very interesting to see what you picked out for your spouse and what he picked out for you. Method number 4. Draw a family tree together, or restore old things that were once dear to you. Method number 5. Look through old photo albums. It is through shared warm memories that you will bring back those feelings that may have gone away over the many years of life together. Method number 6. Try to develop some new recipe together for a tasty dish. And finally, method number 7. They say that letting yourself be distracted from your problems and just feel like children again is the best vacation. Play your favorite childhood game together. Love, appreciate, and respect your partners, and let your home always be filled with music from your favorite movies. In one beautiful area, a festival of followers of esoteric teachings was taking place. Sitting on the soft green grass, people meditated to the songs of birds, enjoyed unity with nature, and talked about various sublime things. About the power of faith, about the illusory nature of everything that exists, about the ability to separate the main from the attached. The participants of the festival had a great time. It seemed to them that every day they were becoming cleaner, wiser, stronger. Suddenly, somewhere far away in the mountains, a severe thunderstorm began, which had been raging for several days. Streams of dirty water with branches and stones rushed into the valley from the slopes. A stream flowing nearby became clogged with mud and began to heat the campground, where only recently there was a real earthly paradise. The soggy earth champed underfoot and the garbage brought by water lay. The meditation ground became a swamp, the fires were flooded, and hordes of mosquitoes swarming in the damp air made it difficult to conduct thoughtful conversations. The participants of the festival hastily gathered a council and began to argue how they should proceed. Some said that they need to turn up and leave since nature itself drives them out of those places. To argue with it is impossible. Others suggested holding a general meditation and sending a request to the universe so that the rain would stop and the stream could return to its course. After all, faith moves mountains. Then, the organizer of the festival asked for the floor. He said he had been in town since morning and had brought several boxes of rubber boots, gardening gloves, and garbage bags. He intends to go to clear the stream of mud after the meeting and invites everyone to join this activity right now because faith and unity with nature are good, but they can change a little until they're backed up by real deeds. Some of the listeners did not agree with the manager and preferred to leave the camp, but the majority immediately got up and went to the stream. They worked hard all day, dragging and rolling large stones, cutting branches, collecting rubbish, drying tents, and rearranging campfires and meditation sites. By the evening, the riverbed was cleared, and the stream again ran merrily on its way. The next day, the water left the clearing. The sun dried up the wet earth, the grass came to life and stretched towards the light, and the damp chambers became soft and cozy again. The festival continued with even greater enthusiasm. Everyone who decided to stay was able to return to their practices, had a good rest, and learned a lot of interesting things. And those who decided to leave returned home, believing that circumstances and nature played a cruel joke on them. Instead of relaxation and inspiration, they got just disappointment. Relying on the power of faith, do not forget that it should be confirmed by real actions.
"Why doesn't he want to meet with me?" thought Delora, holding a smartphone in her hand. A few weeks ago, she met a man on a dating site. The woman did not tell anyone about her mysterious admirer because she was afraid of being laughed at. She is 50 years old and she is a widow. Her friends might judge her for it, and the daughter probably won't accept it because she had always been close to her father. Delora and James wrote to each other a lot. He was also a widower of 50 years. She had not felt so happy in a long time. But her happiness was clouded by the fact that he was against their meeting. "I can come to the park, sit on a bench, and close my eyes," said Delora, thinking that he was somehow self-conscious himself. And James immediately agreed. The next day, Delora did everything as she had promised. James sat down next to her and they talked for a long time. He was brave enough to take Delora by the hand. The woman was so excited by this that she opened her eyes, and she saw that James was sitting in a wheelchair. "But how is that, James? You said you loved sports." Delora did not understand, looking at him in shock. "I loved it once," he answered sadly, looking away, "until I got into a car accident." As it turned out, he was not a widower. His wife abandoned him when James became disabled, and his friends turned away from him, not wanting to be around him. But Delora was not scared. After all, she could really fall in love with James. She smiled at him and said that his disability did not bother her at all. So they kept dating. Next to him, Delora felt young and beautiful. But the happiness did not last long. Her daughter found out about their affair. Casey was against their relationship. She believed that James just wanted to live next to a rich woman who would take care of him for free. "He's a good man," Delora pleaded. "He's an invalid, Mom. He can't give you anything. It will only ruin your life." "I will date him anyway." "I care about you, Mom. I don't want you to fall into the hands of a con man. So choose either him or me and your granddaughter." The choice was obvious to Delora. After this conversation, she blocked James so that he could never write or call her. For days on end, Delora was sitting at home and watching TV aimlessly. And at night, she cried. These days reminded her of those gloomy days when she lost her husband. "I will survive. I have nothing to think about men at my 50, Delora consoled herself. A few days later, she and Cassie were watching TV, and suddenly they saw something interesting. It was a flash mob of disabled people in Central Park. They were spinning in wheelchairs to the music, and then they let red balloons in the shape of a heart into the sky. And they showed an interview of a journalist with James. It turned out that he organized this flash mob. "I have a lot of money, but it doesn't bring happiness, unlike my beloved Delora. I hope you see it, my love." Delora couldn't hold back her tears, and her daughter, realizing that she was mistaken, nodded approvingly in the direction of her mother and stopped interfering with their relationship. People of all ages and positions need love and happiness. Nobody and nothing has the right to stand in the way of their happiness.